Because you got a black face.
Hmm.
All right, we are live. We are live. We are going to, as always, give it a few minutes to allow folks to join. I've got my guests, the Bradleys, and we're going to get started in just a few minutes, but we'll give it a few minutes to let folks join.
Sounds good. This is good.
All right. All right, I see a thumbs up, so we will wait just a few more minutes. A thumbs up is good. That means somebody's out there watching.
Yeah.
Or another thumbs up. All right, we headed in the right direction.
Let's see
All
how
right,
many.
we will just keep giving it a couple of minutes so folks can join, and then I'll kick off and do the introduction.
Okay. Yeah, I see it now.
All right, happy Sunday to you. Thanks for being here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here. It's early in Cali, so we're happy you're here. Thanks for joining. Ma'am, I need you to be quiet. All right, we got a little guest who doesn't want to be quiet, and I can't kick her out right now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off, and then we'll get started talking to our guests. I appreciate you all for being here this morning. Let me fix this so that it is right. All right. So, good morning, California. Good afternoon, where we are in the Bradleys are in Georgia, and I'm in North Carolina. My name is Jewel Pearson, and this is Miss Bohemian Soul TV. The segment we are about to start is the Creating Home, a tiny house series, and this segment is conversations on intimate spaces. And every Sunday, I offer, well, just about every Sunday. I was traveling last Sunday, so I missed you all, but usually every Sunday, I'm offering live content where I alternate between these conversations and the What's Your Question segment, where I am answering frequently asked tiny house questions. And I like to introduce myself and say that I built a kind of fancy tiny house in 2015. And since that time, I have shared my journey to hopefully inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in their tiny house journey. And you'll be able to find all of those links to schedule with me in the video description once this goes live and I have a chance to update it. And as I'm doing that, I serve up a lot of representation in the movement along the way. It's my intent to build figurative and literal community that is inclusive and accessible. And if you find this information in the video helpful, I hope that you will like it, you'll share it, you'll be sure to subscribe to the channel, and then also turn on the notification so that you'll know when content is live. All right, so that's the introduction. Let me get back to my guests. Um, yeah, one day I'm going to be able to do this seamlessly. That's not going to be this morning. Thank you so much, John and Molette. Good morning, Sandra. Thank you for being here.
Good
John
morning.
and Sandra, John and Molette, thank you for being here this morning. I am going to ask you all to introduce yourselves to our audience.
All right.
Hi, my name is John Bradley. I'm from Tuskegee, Alabama. Uh, been a truck driver for 30 years. I stopped doing that and I became a builder out of necessity. And but I've been building now for about 5 to 6 years. And I'm living here in Georgia, but we're about to move back to Alabama. And that's pretty much my story.
All right. Molette, you always say you're the sidekick, but I'm going to require that you introduce yourself as well.
Oh, yes, for sure. I'm Molette Bradley. I'm a veterinarian, worked for USDA almost 30 years, about to retire. Thank you, Lord. And I'm the helpmeet. I totally believe and take that wholeheartedly. And I'm here 100% for John, whatever he does to support him. And so, We're one brain, so we'll look at each other to answer questions because between us it's like one brain. So 28 years of marriage, so that just happens organically. Believe me, it does.
I imagine that it does. Well, I thank you both for being here. And as I kick this off, I always say that I believe that our homes tell a story about us, and whether it's intentional or unintentional. And for people who live in tiny houses or non-traditional housing, I always feel like there's some intent behind those stories and around their housing decisions, and in their design and in their journey. And that is what I hope to explore in this conversation. So I thank you both for being here. Thank you for introducing yourselves. So, John, as I introduced this segment on my social media, I spoke to the fact that you were raised by your grandmother, who instilled principles of Booker T. Washington in your life, and can you kind of give a background of how that has molded you going forward, and then also what your thoughts are around those principles for Black and Brown communities?
Okay. Basically, my grandfather was a barber,
Okay.
and everyone in my family was a independent, had independent businesses. My grandfather's brother was a preacher. My grandfather's sister had a restaurant. My grandfather, I mean, it's always been about business
Okay.
uh, for yourself. So those were the principles that I grew up with, to be independent and always be able to work for yourself, build for yourself, and provide for yourself. I drove truck, like I said, for 30 years, but I was an independent truck driver. I had my own trucking company, and that was a challenge, but I was independent and I loved it as long as it lasted. But it's always been about being independent and build for yourself.
Okay. I mean, I feel like those principles make sense for a lot of reasons. So that it sounds like has been kind of the foundation of how you were raised, and then just going forward for everything that you've done since that time.
Hmm.
One of the other things that I saw in your bio, so you had an early understanding of the importance of owning land, owning housing. And one of the first things that you bought or rehabbed, I believe, were some army barracks. Were there um, any important lessons? And so that kind of sounds like it was early on in the journey. Were there any important lessons that propelled you forward in that effort, that kind of, later on it sounds like you were in search of affordable housing? So were there some lessons learned from that experience, or some things that you felt like were missing that made you continue that search, or try to keep working towards options?
Yes. When I first started out, I guess I was early 20s,
Okay.
and I wanted to own my own land at a very early age. And I met this gentleman who had some land to sell, but it had an army barracks on it. Uh, I was blessed enough that was willing to finance that for me.
Okay.
And uh, I paid it every month, but during the same time, I was going in, working on it every day, rehabbing it. I actually ended up building a triplex apartment complex. I stayed in one unit and I rented the other two units out.
Okay.
And that was in my early 20s. So I managed to pay for it. I owned it. Um, that gave me a sense of freedom and independence that I also got at a very early age that most people don't get. And so I've been independent minded and pretty much free on my own since my 20s. I can't remember working for somebody else.
I'm sure that's an amazing feeling.
Truly is.
I'm sure it is. And so that independence, I'm going to assume was probably part of what propelled you to continue the search for others to understand what affordable housing really looked like. Kind of probably thinking just from that taste of that effort, also that the taste of independence that just really set with you to keep working towards affordability for yourself as well as for your community.
Yes. Once I understood what true freedom was and true independence was, uh, Booker T always said, "Each one teach one."
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman that I brought my property from in my 20s, he used to call it reciprocity.
Reciprocity. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so had he not reached out and gave me that opportunity to purchase that property from him, I might not be in a position that I'm in today. So I took that to heart. I started a class on building shipping container houses to reach out and teach other people what I knew, uh, to help them become more independent in their lives, to help
Mm-hmm.
my community.
Absolutely. So why when you were on the search for affordable housing, what was it about container homes that stood out for you as like the direction to go in?
Uh, it was sustainable. It was durable. Uh, if you think about a shipping container, the life of a shipping container is hundreds of years,
Okay.
opposed to the life of a conventional house. You may get 50 years or 60 years, and then it starts to break down.
Okay.
You go in and redo your walls, your floors, the wood is rotting out. I mean, it's just, it doesn't hold up. But compared to a shipping container, if you keep it painted, keep the rust out of it, it lasts for hundreds of years. I wanted something that was durable, and to my research, shipping containers is probably one of the most durable structures on the market.
Okay. All right, and we're going to look specifically at your build of your current home in just a few minutes. But before I do that, I want to keep talking more about the shipping containers because this is a question that people ask me a lot. You know, what do I think about about shipping containers versus using tiny homes? I obviously don't know the details. I'm always supportive of it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's an economical approach to housing as well. But I obviously want to talk to the expert. So the process of a shipping container, let's talk. And so the highlight that I kind of know about acquiring a shipping container is being cognizant of what was stored in that container if you're not buying a new container.
Right.
Um, can you talk a little bit just about acquiring a shipping container, the do's and don'ts as you're seeking a container, and I guess maybe whether new or used. Are there some high level do's or don'ts?
Um, Basically, it depends on how old the shipping container is. They have one trip shipping containers, and you know exactly what was hauled in that shipping container. However, you're gonna spend several $1,000s for that shipping container, opposed to a container that's been around a while,
Okay,
uh, and it may have a few dents on it, and you probably be very difficult or hard pressed to find out what was hauled in it.
okay,
So how I that problem is, I use polyurethane, uh, biodegradable polyurethane, which it doesn't have odor. It's not give off poisonous gases, and I put 4 or 5 coats on the floor, so whatever that might have leached or seeped into that wooden floor is sealed in, and that generally solves that problem.
Okay. Okay. Now, when you're working with again, and we're going to look at some pictures of your build, but when you're working with a container build, one of the pros for a container build versus a tiny house on wheels like I live in is obviously it's on foundation. And so you're going through the process of working with the various entities to build a home just like you would be building a stick home on a foundation, correct?
That's true.
Okay.
Yes, just like you would build a conventional house.
Okay. Is
And it's
there, I'm sorry, go ahead, Millette. What were you going to say?
the code. You have
Hmm.
an inspector saying it's the same.
Say it one more time if the sound went out.
Okay, I was just saying that everything is to code. The inspector comes and inspects part
Each
of it.
phase.
Okay. All right. So you're following the same process that you would for a conventional or traditional home on foundation. Um, are there, considering that it is a container home, are there any special design considerations that someone should be thinking about? Um, that might be different from the way you would approach a conventional traditional build on foundation.
In certain cases, basically, now there are 2 types of container homes. You have a hybrid container home, which is conventional and containers, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have straight container home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what hybrid? But I've also built just a straight container home, and you have to cut the walls out. Depending on the size rooms, you cut that size of room out when you put them together, and that makes a full size room because a container is only 8 feet uh, wide.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, if I'm interested in building with a container home and I'm going to work with an architect, are is it most architects generally versed in dealing with container homes and design, or is it a special? Do I need to be looking for a special somebody? Is that not something that they're usually able to deal with?
Some architects are not versed in dealing with container homes. I've found it interesting to find certain architects approach it as if they was doing a conventional home, and there are quite a few differences.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have load considerations, especially if you want to stack them on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to get an engineer to come in and look at how it's designed for the load considerations to make sure it can sustain that weight load. But generally, it's not too much of a difference. But you would have to find somebody that does have knowledge in designing container homes.
Okay. All right. One of the questions, you spoke to the width of the containers. What is the standard height?
There are 2 basic heights. You got a high view, which is 9 feet tall, and then you have a standard, which is 8 feet tall.
Okay. Okay. All right. What does a person who's interested, so now I love looking at container home designs. I love the ones that are stacked and all of those things. I also like containers for the fact that I can build this home at this point and know that later on I can expand on it. Maybe I don't have all the funds right now, but I can come back and expand on it. What for somebody who's thinking along those lines, I'm building this standard. This is what my budget allows right now, but at some point I'm going to do some different things. What what do they need to be keeping in mind along that line? I heard you say something about load. Um, what are some other things that they might need to consider if they know in the future they intend to continue that build?
Well, I give you a real quick story. I built a house for a lady out of Houston, Texas, and when I started the house, maybe about 5 months later, 4 months later, her husband got sick, and before we finished, he actually passed. And so the house sat for almost a year, wasn't it?
Close to about 8 months.
And when she called me back to finish building the house, everything was just where I left. Had that been a conventional house, she would have lost all that money that she'd already invested because the wood would have deteriorated, whereas a container doesn't deteriorate like that.
So if I'm wanting to expand, it's really just one, I've got the longevity that I can figure it out as I'm going along. And
Exactly.
then two, but if I'm living in it and I decide, okay, I want to stack, go higher, all of that kind of stuff, is it still just a matter of working with an engineer and to further that design for the most part?
Yeah, you could actually design the whole house in the beginning process and just build part of it and come back and build the other part on it later. For instance, let's just say if you decide to put a bedroom off of the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
you would design a door or a sliding door, a big door right there off that kitchen. So when you connected another container, then you walk through that door instead of walking outside, you're walking into your bedroom. So you determine what you want and you build it step by step. Even if you don't finish it, you can always add on to it because now you know that there's a door that's going to lead into another room.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So kind of thinking ahead, even though you aren't gonna do everything at this time, but kind of have your go-to plan put together. And then still for someone who doesn't go to that level, they still have the opportunity to design it. If it's a later thought, they still have
Yeah.
the opportunity to redesign it. But if you know straight out that you want to build something bigger than your budget allows right now, it's better, it sounds like, to approach it that way and design it out and just still do it in phases.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm glad you did not say yes, ma'am. I heard it coming.
I call myself.
I'm glad you caught yourself. Okay, so I'm going to, before we keep going, I'm going to share some pictures of their house. And so we've got a brochure. I'm sharing from a brochure. So we're just going to kind of go through the pictures. So bear with me. It's not how we usually do it. But I also want to say, so I met the Bradleys in 2017, and I can't remember how we met. I think it was via social media or something.
Yeah.
But do you remember, Millette, how I met you, how we connected?
Hey, Ralph.
Was it
Was
Ralph? Yeah.
Oh, it
Go ahead.
was. It absolutely was. So I was moving. That's exactly how it was. I was moving my tiny house, and the person that came from the power company
Mm-hmm.
knew. And I was in North Carolina, and the person that came from the power company worked with solar, and he
Mm-hmm.
had connected with the Bradleys, was a friend of the Bradleys, and so he gave me their information. That's exactly how it was. I'm glad Millette remembered.
We had
Um,
you and we were like, Jewel, you
yeah,
know.
and so I had the opportunity to connect with them and actually visit their homestead and their home as I was in visiting my family in Atlanta, and I was headed back to North Carolina. They are kind of almost right at the Georgia South Carolina line. So I want to help people. And B Cooper, I did see your question. I'm not ignoring you. We'll come back to that. I want to help people understand the build of your house. So I'm going to share the screen and then have you all talk to it. Here we go. Okay. You all see the pictures, right?
Uh-huh.
Right. Okay. All right. So so this is, I can even go a little bit further. All right. So this is obviously, looks either it was raining or your concrete was fresh. Looks like it was raining.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
right.
raining.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was raining. So this is bringing the containers in.
Yes. You
And
want to talk?
so,
So
yeah, go ahead.
basically everything is prefab. You notice the windows and doors were already cut out before you set the container down.
So where does that happen? Where were they cut?
Uh Actually I had the people that I had the people that I bought the container from,
Mm-hmm.
the applications on it, which they cut. I gave them my plans. They cut the windows, the doors, um, everything out before I actually got the container. So when I got the container, everything was already cut out and framed up.
Okay. And
So
is
that,
that is go ahead, Molette.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, so that first door to the left is going into our bedroom. The middle door is our wash and dry area. The next one to the end to the right is John's gym, where he has a sauna, workout room, everything. It's everything you think of. You can put in those.
And so you did the pre-work, you did your
Hmm.
design, and then you had the fabricator go ahead and make those cuts for you. Is it any
Right.
cheaper to do it that way than bringing them on and you cutting them on site?
It is definitely not cheaper to have them to do it. I think I paid, if I'm not mistaken, about $1,000 or better a door.
But this was his first one.
Yeah, this was my first one. After
So you,
that, I cut it myself after that.
mm-hmm. You live and you learn.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm going to go back to, okay, now this is the side of the house. Talk to us about, before I go to the front view of this. So this is the side of the house where there are two containers kind of side by side. Talk to us about what happens here.
Okay, if you notice the cutout uh, on the container, and I'm bringing another container to sit exactly beside this one, those two doors will line up. So instead of two containers, now you have one room when you line those two openings up. So that'll be
Got,
16 by whatever that length of that room is you want.
got it. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me see if
That's
I
the
can.
by the
Uh-oh,
way. If
sorry. What did you say, John?
you see those pipes sticking out of the ground,
Mm-hmm.
the
The slab.
foundation,
The slab.
that's where the bathroom is going to be.
That's where it is. That's a sitting area. That container is our bathroom and a sitting area off of
And
our
so
on our bed.
you're bringing that container in. It's going to get lifted up and it's going to go directly down on the foundation that's poured here, that extended foundation.
Mm,
Right, side by side.
Okay. All right. This isn't, there's another picture that, there it is. Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the picture that kind of talks to what we were just describing. So now everything is in place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me find another picture. Okay. Now you're starting to, is this paint?
Right. I use the marine paint, or you can use direct to metal paint. You want to get a very durable paint, so that you don't have to worry about rust and stuff over a period of time. Marine paint holds up very well.
That
That's the
makes
paint.
sense. Now, talk to me about, so now that you have the containers on the foundation, what happens with the floor of the foundation, and with the floor of the container and the actual slab? What has to
Oh,
happen to secure them?
okay. Now I didn't choose to do a slab. The building inspector kind of forced me into it. You can set them up with crawl space under the
Mm.
containers,
Mm-hmm.
using piers.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer doing it that way, but again, you have to go through your building code and your building inspector, and
Right.
he insisted that I put a foundation down, which I did because otherwise he wouldn't have allowed me to build my house.
Mm-hmm.
And so
So
sitting
now,
them on
how are the containers, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to eat while we talking. How are the containers secured to the foundation?
I used a anchor bolt, uh, and I pushed that into the concrete, and I used a 8 by 8 inch, by half-inch, uh,
metal.
metal plate, and
Mm-hmm.
I put it down to the concrete,
Well,
and then I sit the container on top of that, and I welded the feet of the container to the plate,
Got it.
so it's
Okay.
going nowhere.
Okay.
very, very, you can feel that in a storm. We've been in many storms where we didn't even know it was happening until we looked out the door because it's so secure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have our doors right there on that picture. That door of the smaller one is closed, and he kept that on there. There's now a deck on that, but if there was a storm or if there was some kind of crazy uprising, we could close those doors and feel totally secure in there.
Got it. Okay. Now, through your process of building and working with the building inspector, are they coming out at every stage along this way to
Yes.
check? Okay, that's what I figured.
Yep. It's just like a conventional house.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me find some other pictures.
That's the hybrid part.
Okay, so wait a minute, let me step back. Okay, so let's step back to this one. So you can see where the hybrid part is. Okay. And so you started doing the hybrid conventional type build in the center. Talk to us a
Mhm.
Right.
little bit about that.
Uh, the hybrid part is basically just like you're doing a conventional house. You'll do 2 by 4 frame walls, uh, uh, down on the foundation, and you put your windows and doors in just like you would do a conventional house, but you bolt the outside walls to the container, uh, to stabilize them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, let me see what other pictures. I'm looking at that one.
Yeah,
And so that's kind of looking down in it to
in
describe
the,
just what you were talking about.
Right.
mhm.
Okay. Let's see. This is that smaller container that's over to the side that we were just talking about a few
Right.
minutes
With the
ago.
door. Yeah, with the door still there.
and you can close those doors
Right.
even on over the sliding.
Yeah.
And that's the security Millette that you were just talking about, say in a storm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. Um, so I know about that lofted space, but describe what's happening with your lofted space. What did you do?
Okay, we wanted a little bit more square footage in the container, and so I had a 612 pitch roof design, which gave me another 500 square feet above the container. So that actually gave me another living area inside the roof, living space inside the roof.
And how do you access that space? Do you have stairs? What does that access look like?
Almost kind of like a
Got it.
pull down attic
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
situation. I was intending on eventually doing circular stairs going up there,
Mm-hmm.
but I got around to it.
Okay. And so it sounded like that backspace might be. So is the entire? I've forgotten. Is the entire space at the top used more for storage, or is that living space up there?
It's some storage. I think I got uh 6 feet, which is where the front porch is. About that much space will be storage. I think that's 4 feet, and the rest, all the way to the back wall, is living space.
Okay.
We just left it open. He uses it as a theater room, a man
Mm-hmm.
cave.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. But you could put more bedrooms up there. We have three be- three bedrooms downstairs. Really could be four, but it would be a small one I use as an office. But you could put more bedrooms up there. But it's open. It's just the open length of the house that he uses as a theater room.
What is the square footage of your house?
It's 2,000 square feet.
Not tiny.
Not tiny at all, Molette. Not tiny at all.
I
All
think
right, let me.
tiny is the description. The definition is 450 to
But
be
it
tiny.
depends. It depends on who you're talking to. Between 400 or 500 square feet.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're wrapping up um, the upper part. I'm trying to find. Um, these pictures kind of show that interior space. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And that's basically the room upstairs.
Okay. All right. So you are closing everything off. Um, over to that right hand side. Do you all where that smaller container is? Do you still have the doors on that? Right, the container
Yeah.
doors. Do you leave them open, closed? Because how does that work?
Usually I'll leave them open. If it's a storm or something, we close them then. But they also have 4 feet hangover over that door. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a small deck off the bedroom as well.
It's not there
Oh,
now.
okay. Okay.
It's
There's a
not there now,
on
but
that picture. Yeah.
on that picture, but that ended up being a deck off the bedroom, small deck.
Perfect. Got it. Okay. Now I'm gonna take us back to wrapping up the build. Here we go. We're finishing everything up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you have on the exterior up at the top?
That's regular high grade vinyl siding.
Okay.
I
All
like
right.
that vinyl. You can just pressure wash it and keep it moving.
Okay. And this is the back of the house, right? Yes.
And those doors we didn't keep where they could open because that's a wall that's just
Right.
Okay.
that's a guess. So we
We actually welded those doors shut. They can't be open.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Is this? Yes, that's a longer view of it. So
yeah,
both
Mm-hmm.
sets of those doors
yeah, those are
are
welded.
welded shut.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay.
And
And
it's a deck
then
also.
that's a deck off of those the
Yeah.
double doors now. Okay. All right. There was one. Okay. So now we got an idea. And so this is the interior, and this is that hybrid space.
Hmm.
Right.
All right. So now we'll just go through and look through the interior. And so we're still in the hybrid space. And then those doors line up to what we saw as the container was being brought in.
Right.
Right.
That's still the same side, just looking from the kitchen angle. And then this is one of um, this is part of
Inside.
the container in the container space, correct?
Right.
Right.
That's the master bedroom, the main bedroom, may I say,
And we also have storage
under the bed.
under the bed.
Yeah.
Did you build that bed, John?
I did.
I heard it in your voice.
And that's the sauna room. That's a sauna right there. That's the gym.
Okay. Let me see. That's in it. And so I
That's
think
on that.
that's the back. Okay. Any other pictures? I think we kind of covered everything. Is there anything specifically you want me to show from these
Hmm.
pictures?
Mm.
No, it's probably some more at the end, but no, I mean,
Let's
show
see.
the more of the interior, but people don't believe it can look that nice. But if no one told you, and then these are not like pictures of the completed with the decks and all that on there.
Right.
He really did a good job. I'm proud of him. The wife is
Absolutely.
happy.
And that's all that matters in life, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
And that's the conceptual I'm gathering before what you had before the bill.
the
The
architect,
architect drawing.
right?
Yep. Okay. Let me change back. Oh, Sandra, do you want to see the bathroom? Is that what you're asking? Let me see. If
Yeah, should be some
I did see a picture. Let me find it. I know that's the tub. Is there a picture of the finished bathroom
finished picture of it, but those will be at the end, I think, like near
at
the
the
end.
end?
Yeah,
So we looked at all of those. Um,
it's nothing at the end because it looks like you're going
No, just
back and
I'm going back
build.
towards the top. I was already at the very end, and
Right. It
there's
should be
nothing
about
down.
middle ways.
Okay, let's go back up there and see if I can find the bathroom.
I thought it was at the end
About middle ways.
of the finished product.
The finished part.
I think so. 'Cause this is showing the
Oh,
progression
it's
of the
going
build.
back to the.
It's showing the
I don't
progression of
see
the build.
any. Yeah, I don't see any pictures here
It may.
of the, well, let's see. It might be one right here. There's part of it. Okay. There it
Where is
is.
that at?
Okay. In the middle,
Yeah, that
slide 20,
is it. Wow, I would never thought it was all the way.
27. Let's see what's 26. That starts at 26,
Okay, so that's the bathroom.
27.
Separate toilet. That door goes into a toilet room, and then that's the small guest
Guest
bathroom.
bathroom.
Yeah, with toilet three piece. Yeah, you see the toilet the thing. It's pretty good sized bathroom. Shower head, short shower toilet. I mean shower bath together. Messy
Okay.
washroom,
Okay. Let
stackable.
me let me change and get back to um to us. Okay, so a question came in um where someone is asking about mold and rust issues, and that being a huge concern with containers. Is there a specific type of insulation that can prevent this from happening, or what do you have to do?
Yeah, closed cell spray foam insulation. It's kind of pricey, but you want to use that because that eliminates the moisture transfer in the walls and mold and stuff. And then I also use a mold resistant paint. But we haven't had any problems with mold.
And also the fans that you
Yeah,
can
you
incorporate into
also
the
want to
building.
use fan system in the bathroom where you're gonna have moisture
Mm-hmm.
in your. You want to have some type of ventilation or some type of exhaust fan pulling that. Like if you shower, you want to use that to pull the moisture out of the air.
Right. Same thing that you need to do as I've shared in a tiny house. It's a smaller bathroom space, so you want to make sure you are addressing your ventilation and you have windows and a ventilation system in your bathroom. So absolutely, that. So another question that was asked was, how wide is the span in between the containers?
20, 20 to 21 feet in between. It's just 21 by 35, I think that is.
Okay. Okay. Um, I don't know if y'all can hear. Shh, shh, shh. No, ma'am. my my guest here who just won't cooperate. Tell us again what you said the square footage was. Did you say it was 2,000? You said 2,000 square feet, right?
Yeah, total.
Okay, total. And that
Mm,
that includes part of the overhead space, because part of that is living space too,
right,
correct? Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I explained that last week because not everybody understood. Space that is not living space, you don't count in your square footage. So that's something that I try to point out. So in this process, and knowing that this was your first build, what lessons were learned? I think you touched on one thing that you would have done differently. Were there a lot of lessons learned and things you might have done differently with this being your
Uh,
your first build?
yeah, I'm worlds apart now from I learned a lot of financial lessons.
Okay.
Uh, I ended up the next house I built. I cut in all of my own windows and doors. I'm not a welder, but I did take some welding classes so that I could do part of my own welding. I definitely would have crawl space opposed to a foundation, slab foundation.
Why is that?
Uh, well, if you ever have any plumbing issues,
Mm-hmm.
you got to go through the floor of the container. Now you got to go through the concrete floor
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just to your pipe. So if you got crawl space, you got access to all of your plumbing without going through all of those other very costly things to do to get your plumbing fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Uh,
We plan
I
out.
used H zone units. I wouldn't recommend using ductwork systems. Uh, Zone
Okay.
units
Mm-hmm.
very very effective for us as far as efficiency
Like you
with
mean the mini split systems, that type of thing? Mm-hmm.
right, has been very effective with the light bills and that kind of stuff. And plus we got solar, so you can
Okay.
use many with solar.
Okay.
And the very next house he built that lady a walk-in closet.
Yeah, yeah, we
So
Oh,
didn't
that
have
I hear a
uh,
little something in Molette's voice there,
I
John.
closet, but I will this time. I definitely will this time.
I detected a little something there that somebody
No,
didn't get a walk-in closet.
yeah,
he knows.
she didn't like that.
So we know what will be in that next bill. So we've got a
Yeah,
question of whether it's true that you can cut out 10 feet off the side of a container without having to reinforce it. Is that true? That sounds.
Our feet would be the maximum that you would cut out. If you
What did you
go over,
say? It went out a little bit. What? How many feet?
would be the maximum amount that they would suggest that you cut out. You
10.
without
can
10
cut
feet without
10
reinforcement.
feet without
Okay.
reinforcement,
Okay.
but you can't. I have cut out 12 feet, uh, but I increase the framework as far as 3 foot tubing opposed to two inch. I'm sorry, 3 inch tubing opposed to 2 inch tubing.
Okay.
So which
Okay.
gives you a little more structure when you cut it out.
Okay. All right. You're also you also do some aquaponics, gardening, all of that kind of stuff. Talk to us a little bit and you got the solar. Talk to us a little bit about that work that you've been doing. And I got a chance to see it when I was on site.
Yeah, I went to UGA, got a in master gardening,
Okay.
and I started an aquaponic system before I went to UGA. I was very interested in raising fish
Just
and food in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was very it was a lot of knowledge to absorb. You have to know about
pH.
pH level. You got to know about uh,
What the algae
the
growth.
algae growth. It's just a lot. Maintaining the water, because if you put something in there, it might harm the fish. If
Mm-hmm.
you put else in there for the fish, it might harm the plants. So
Okay.
you have an exact scientific balance between the fish and the plants at all times.
Okay.
Uh, I want to call it is fluorite, and nitrates.
Okay.
Nitrates and
Hmm.
uh, that's the balance that you're looking for. And I grew some huge cabbage. I was huge. I was
What they
very
taste
proud.
like? What they
Oh,
taste like? Did you eat them?
Oh yeah.
very good.
Hmm.
Very good.
Cabbage, green spinach. Uh, we had not radishes, but what's those red things?
Beets.
We had beets,
I like
uh,
beets.
strawberries, everything you could think of. Now, your leafy vegetables do much better in aquaponics than the thing like carrots and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They don't do
The
as
root
well.
system.
So you
Okay.
basically out what's the better plants that you could grow in that type of system versus other stuff.
Are there any benefits to growing like that versus like the traditional gardening method?
I think so. You use less water. You have to, in
Mm,
traditional gardening, you got to go out there and water your garden on a regular basis. Whereas uh, you may have some evaporation that you have to replace in the closed loop system,
mm-hmm.
but you use less water.
And the soil now is just not nutrient dense. That's the biggest thing right now.
Right.
Using this
Got it.
system,
Yeah.
yeah, the fish in a closed system like this, it's just
And I feed the fish organic fish food.
so
Makes sense.
So thing is organic.
That
we're
makes
not
sense.
adding hydroponics. They're actually adding
Adding
some type
chemicals,
chemicals. But this is
Okay.
a and
Okay.
a good closed system with the fish feeding the more
plants. Hmm.
plant grows
Okay.
from.
So, when the work that you've been doing, and we're going to talk about your workshops in just a few minutes, but and give you a chance to talk a little bit about that. So, the work that you've been doing, what is this? How long?
It's been,
The,
yeah, we need to
Been a long time.
it's been a long time now.
start.
When people see your home, when people see the work that you're doing, what what do you want that to say about you all? What does it represent? What does it speak to you as a person? What are those? What's the first thought?
Um, that's a great question.
What
Thank you.
Go ahead.
it takes work. I mean, this didn't happen overnight. I remember as a young couple, we were in my sister and her husband's den, and I looked around and I said, wow, you guys have everything. And they had been married 20 years, and that's what my brother-in-law said. This didn't happen overnight. And so now
Mm-hmm.
we're in place having been married 28 years, and it just takes work, to make to get here. But our mindset is to be independent, stay independent, be debt free as possible.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at a complete debt free. We just sold both these houses, and my student loans are gone, car loans. I think we did it.
Sounds
But
like you did.
yeah.
Sounds like you
So
did.
the question was, what would we want people to think?
I
Mm-hmm.
think, from my perspective, Booker T was right. Uh, Booker T tried to instill uh, independence in us as a people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we are in America, but we still need to be independent as a people. And somewhere along the line, we dropped that ball. And I stayed with the program, and I've never been happier in my life. That's the honest to God truth. We're in the process of purchasing property in Costa Rica. We're debt free. Um, it's freedom. Most of our
Liberation.
have experienced true freedom to be able to go anywhere in the world you want to go without answering to anybody.
Yeah.
Um,
That
that's what Booker T was trying to give us, and most of us kind of
miss
missed the
well
lesson
the
that he
thing
was trying to teach.
the thing of that statue, that famous statue, is on Tuskegee's grounds right now, where Booker T is unveiling the the slave. He's pulling the blanket from off his head, and on that the inscription there says
Education,
education and
and
industry. And so we
we
got the education part,
but we missed the
but
industry
we don't
part
want to work with our hands. And there's no way to do it without. You need both. And that's what Booker T was saying. You need to do both. And that's what those children did under his leadership. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
we've lost.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
We got
Yeah.
the education part, but we lost the industry part,
Yep.
and that's why the class to try to show people that you can build the empire. I mean, we built this empire. Why you can't build your own? Um,
Absolutely.
so work with you. It takes both education and hard work.
Working with the
Yep.
hand, expertise.
Yep. So that's a
That's it.
good segue, because I do want to. One of the question was just asked whether you offer tours or provide building assistance. So I want to change over to, let me fix this. So talk to us about your container workshop. So you've got one at the end of the year. You've had, I know that you've had a few. I think you're doing something virtual. So talk to us about what your offerings are, so for people
Oh,
that are interested.
we just recently purchased 24 acres in Tuskegee, Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to build two Airbnbs there as well as our next home. Uh, we're offering a workshop in Franklin, the city of Franklin in Macon County, Alabama, uh, which will give you a hands-on experience of how to build your own shipping container home. That's something you're interested in, and that's from foundation to finished product. So that's my way of trying to give back or teach people that you can do this yourself. Is not unattainable, uh, and you can have a good life.
And so this is every year we have them in April and in October. This will be our first one in Alabama because we're making this move from Georgia to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But we have them every April and October. So the next one is, as this flyer says, October 21st, 22nd. The first day is classroom. We usually have where John lectures half of that day, and we bring in a designer and a solar person because those are two different things that help in your building up a container home. So let me see. Yeah, so that's the first day. It's a classroom all day. Usually people go out on their own for lunch, but because of this location change, we probably have to bring lunch in. And then on the second day is hands-on, where you're actually feeling the cut of how to cut through this
How to
metal.
modify the container
Right,
and frame
right.
and stuff like that.
And so that's the
Some
second day.
hands-on stuff.
Right. Second day is the lunch is included, but like I said, it's a little change. It's going to be a little changes this year
Mm.
in October.
But basically, you getting a more understanding of um, the freedom of owning your own home. When we finished our house, we built it debt free, and so that's the great takeaway for me is by building it myself, I was able to save a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I still had the benefits of having a nice place to live.
And people walk away feeling like they really could do it themselves. Mostly the classes are mostly women. We've had one or two classes where there were a lot of men, and we were kind of taken back that there were so many men. But usually, it's women filling these classes.
That's interesting. That's my audience too for tiny houses, mostly Black women. Yeah,
Yeah.
women and Black women. A
Hmm.
question. So, one of my attendees, and I can't remember if V Cooper is who is has asked about um, container homes in the past. She's asking if you can recommend, or do you have an architect that you recommend that you work with to put together building plans? She's working with her local folks, and she needs some building plans.
We have a young lady, Tracy. She's in Charlotte, and
Okay.
she actually has worked with me on designing a few
People too.
different homes.
Okay.
So we do have her number.
So
Uh,
if you, Molette, if you'll just shoot me her information,
Okay.
I can include it in the video description for people who are looking um,
Okay.
for that contact. Now,
Okay.
I think you had some virtual classes. Somebody is saying they're ready for a class now. Don't you? Do you have virtual classes that you've offered previously that are available for somebody who doesn't can't wait until October?
We haven't gotten it together yet. We have some footage that we had planned to have
Okay.
ready. Um, I'm in talks with people to take that footage and actually make it,
You have to edit it.
yeah, to get
Okay.
that. And so that's a possibility, but I'm not sure if it's before October or not.
Okay.
But and it's possible we could do the classroom part as virtual. We've done that before, where we've had the classroom part virtual,
Hmm.
and then the hands-on you could,
Come back
come
later.
back another day when it's better for you to come back for the hands-on part, and
Okay.
it would be,
Hmm.
Okay.
but
All
that's
right. So
possible.
V Cooper, their information will be in the video description for you to connect with them to talk further. Another question is asking, and it's up to you whether you're interested in sharing this information on your cost of building your container, your home. Up and
Um,
again, up to you. I always say share what you want to share.
it was. I, I would say at that time it was around um 30-40 dollars a square foot. And
Okay.
now you're looking at closer to 125 a square foot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I'm happy I built my house in 2015 because
Oh, right.
Hmm.
And I'm
the
finna
cost.
jump out. I'm finna build another house. I'm finna build two more. Um, and the materials have gone up considerably,
Mm-hmm.
but where I'll save my money is I'll be doing a lot of the work myself. I won't have to pay out as much labor.
Right.
So that's going to be the saving grace for me going forward because
Right.
otherwise it'll be kind of pricey
Yeah.
in this environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sandra, thank you for the super chat. I always say to attendees, feel free to share the love with my guests. I drop it in the chat how you can share some love and appreciation via super chat. So if you want to cash at me to avoid the cut for super chats, I'm happy to share that with the Bradley. So you feel free to share the love. Thank you, Sandra, for kicking it off as you always do. Okay, so one of the questions that I want to address in the that I saw in the comments, someone was asking where are container homes allowed. So I always share that these decisions are made not at the state level, they are made at the city and county level. So what is
Right.
allowed in your area is going to be determined by your city, county officials.
Mm.
Whether containers are allowed, again, containers are different from a tiny house on wheels like I own because containers are going to be placed on a foundation and generally and so then you're going through the standard build process. So you would want to check with your local officials to understand what is allowed in your area. What's allowed in Commerce, Georgia, where they built is not necessarily going to be the same for you. The rules for what they have to do in Alabama aren't necessarily going to be the same for the way they had to do it in Commerce, Georgia. So that
Hmm.
information is going to be there available at at the city and county level. Um,
That's right.
what other questions do I have? So, and all of the information, their workshop, their contact information, Molette is going to share with me the name of their architect. I'll put all of that in the video description. Y'all got to give me a minute because I'm after I finish this, I'm trying to catch a flight. So just wait. I'll probably have it up by the end of the day. So just give me some grace. Um, what have you, and you touched on this some, and I wanted to address the comment Sandra said that, John, that you were so knowledgeable, and that Molette, you were the best wing person, and I and I had to chuckle because that's kind of the way she describes herself. um so that was cute to me. What have you learned about yourselves in this journey since you've been doing this work, since you've been sharing this work with, like, I don't know if you saw that in the beginning that you'd be holding workshops and sharing this out. Maybe you did. um I think we were starting to talk about that because I was starting to do that when we first connected. What have
Right.
you learned about yourselves in this journey?
That's a good question. Resilience, I guess,
I
is the
love
first
that.
mind. Um, it has not been an easy journey. However, uh, it makes me realize that I don't take no for an answer. Once I set my mind to it, I'm determined to see it through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you're gonna, especially when I first started, you're gonna run into a lot of headwind. Um, People don't know about container houses. Certain people just set against container houses, but simply because they don't know. And so you have to be an advocate for what you do, as while teaching people who may not believe in what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You and that has shown that I had a lot more perseverance in me than I thought I had, because a lot of times I lay down, I'd say, man, I don't need this. I
Mm-hmm.
built my house. I'm happy that.
I can
But
relate. Yeah.
other people come along and they're interested, and so I started the process all over again. It's been a great journey.
Yeah. I can relate to that resilience too. And I can relate to almost like like you were saying, like the frustration, like you want to help people and then something happens, or somebody says something, or somebody cusses me out, or something is just like, you know what, I got my house, I can go live in my house and mind my business and not do any of this.
Okay.
um but
Oh.
but then you come back again because you recognize that there are people out there who want to learn and need you, so you come back out. But absolutely, that part of it is a lot frustrating. And I say the same thing of, like, I always say you can't share your dreams with everybody. Like, if I had listened to some of the people before I actually built my tiny house, I would have never built a tiny house because
Right.
people didn't understand what it
Right.
was. Are you having a hardship? Do you need some money? And it's like, no, I've got a plan. But I didn't see anybody else doing what I was doing. There were a few people. I really didn't see anybody that looked like me doing it, but I still stayed the course. And so now that I think about it, like, in a couple of days, it'll be 8 years for me. And so I think, what a beautiful journey this has been. But if I had listened to others, or some of the times where I was like, I don't have to do, do this, if I had listened to that versus being resilient, like you said. So I love that. Absolutely love that.
Mhm.
Absolutely love that. Teresa, I'm going to answer your question and then we're just going to start to wrap up. So you're asking whether it's different for unincorporated areas than for city areas. I know county has less regulations. So again, unincorporated areas in this particular area are going to be still have different rules from unincorporated areas in another area. So it is going to be specific to the particular area that you are looking at. So you'll have to ask those questions in that particular area to understand what the rules are.
Right.
Um, um, my friend Randolph has saying, "Cuss you out." I know those earrings are coming off. I'm in a place of peace right now. Like if they had caught me a few years ago, perhaps, but right now I ain't got time. I might break a nail or something like that. So I don't have time for the drama. But yeah, I get cussed out on a regular because don't I don't do stuff for free, but I'm here every Sunday doing stuff for free. Um, you can't please everybody, and once you learn that and understand that you are working for you and what feels good for you and what makes the difference for you at the end of the day, then that's all that matters, and that's what you will figure out.
Right.
Okay, so Sandra, I think you were late. Sandra is asking, what did you build with the barracks? And so we talked about that early on. So Sandra, he turned those barracks, and John, I'll let you talk to it into a triplex. So talk to us a little bit more about the barracks.
Yeah, these were actually, I'm sure you heard of the Tuskegee Airmen. Those
Mm-hmm.
were the Tuskegee Airmen barracks. Um,
Oh, okay.
and so I had a duplex, a triplex, and a one room kitchenette. Um, and, I lived in a triplex. I rented the duplex and the kitchenette out. But that was the foundation for my building career. I actually gutted that house out myself, put in new sheetrock, plumbing, electrical. I did it all myself. Well, I taught myself to do it. Um, Quick story: when I first bought it, they used to store hay in it,
Okay.
and I was had my little mattress on the floor sleeping, and I went to the room one night, and a doggone snake was sitting up in the bathtub looking at me.
Oh my goodness.
It's gonna be me or you, buddy, but I ain't moving.
I
but
thought you were gonna say a mouse or a rat. I hadn't gotten to snake, but oh my goodness.
a serious snake in my
Whew.
bathtub, so me and him
Mm.
fight it out. May the best man win. I, I,
Well,
I,
I'm pretty sure I
I,
know who won.
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
it ended up really nice. That's the first house we moved into after we got married. So it was a nice place where we lived.
I'm
yeah.
sure. I'm sure it was. All right, so I have two more questions. What would the title of your autobiography be?
Ooh, oh, oh, oh.
First thing came to mind for me is the Renaissance man because um, John makes everything. Like if I could show you some pictures of our aquaponic system, he made that aquaponic system. He has
Right.
no background in the science that went into doing the aquaponics system. He had no experience building these containers or anything like that, but he just does stuff. I mean, he just makes things, and he's just really impressed me. Even at 28 years, I'm still learning and being
He's
impressed.
still
Just
impressed. That's cute. Okay, so what I need a title that includes you, Molette. We got John. Can you pull something together so both of
we,
y'all can be in the story?
I'm just like I'm a shadow person. I don't.
She's really not.
Batman and Robin.
I am.
Nothing that we do is possible without Molette.
I
Wow.
Um,
know.
she,
Exactly.
she she inspires me to keep going sometimes when I don't want to go. She give me that little kick in the butt sometime when I might need one. She's very inspirational. I'm blessed to have her in my life. She she's the office person. She's designers. I mean, she does a lot of
She's
stuff that
planning. He's not a planner.
I'm not into, and
Right.
so together we form the perfect union. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm grateful to know you both. Absolutely. Um, Veronica, you said this was your first time attending and it was awesome. I appreciate you. She's so informative, and the Bradleys are wonderful. Thank you for joining. I hope you will keep joining. This is what we do every other Sunday, be in conversation like this. And I always say, I've thought about moving the day of the week, but then I always feel like it is meant for Sundays. These conversations are soul conversations, and I feel like they're meant for Sundays. And every Sunday, it ends up being that same thing where it's good for your soul, it's encouraging, and it feels good. Um, what's one question I didn't ask but you wish that I had?
Hmm. Um, it as far as container,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that would try to get people to understand about shipping containers is the freedom of it. I didn't understand it until later, till years later. It it afforded me to have freedom that I don't think I would have without it. Uh, I'm able to live in a nice home without the day to day worries about paying a light bill, or water bills, or
Mm-hmm.
this bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's the freedom of it, and so that's what containers out of me is a form of freedom. So
Absolutely.
that's the takeaway.
I feel that same way. For me, my tiny house building, that the vision that I saw for myself as when my daughter was in kindergarten, and I knew I wanted a lighter lifestyle. That was,
Mm,
the struggle of a young single mom. I saw a vision where I wanted lighter lifestyle, less responsibility.
right.
And liberation is really part of it. Like, less is liberation. And I say
Mm,
that um, for me as well, like my tiny house journey, living in my tiny house, owning my home. And I've owned conventional homes, but owning my home, and um, just knowing that nobody can ever come take this away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I work in corporate America, but I don't have to work in corporate America. Like,
right.
if I get laid off, it is a different feeling from being laid off when I had a big house and a lot of bills and all of those things. So it is a lighter feeling, and a liberation, just like you're saying, in knowing that I can make moves differently. I can make moves based on the things that bring me joy, the things that I want to do, versus because I have to do these things. And that is an amazing feeling.
It
It's huge.
truly is.
Yeah,
Truly is.
absolutely.
So just a few years
I'm sorry, go
ago,
ahead, Millet.
I was going to say, just a few years ago, you guys may remember the government went down and we didn't get paid. I worked for USDA, so we didn't get paid for 1 or 2 months. And there were people, federal workers out there in tears, like, what am I going to
Right,
do? And,
right.
that where if I didn't know it before then, I knew it during that time.
Absolutely.
People tried to give us money or things like that, we were fine because we didn't have a house note and all those bills that were there. And my husband reminds me many times when I come home complaining, sometimes you don't have to work, but I'm just trying
Yeah,
to make of 30 years, and that's just a personal thing I want to do. And other than that, I'm good, and that's
yeah,
what he.
yeah. Yeah, I remember the not too long after I had just built my tiny house, and I've been laid off several times.
Hmm.
And there was a gap in between. I was moving from a contract employee to a full-time employee, and there was a gap in between, and I wasn't working. And it was not it that burden. My shoulders didn't feel like they felt the times that I had been laid off before. It was like, okay, for my tiny house parking, which is what I pay to park on somebody's land, I can
Right.
hustle up that money. I can ask, 20 people for $10. I can go work
Right.
at bag some groceries. Like, there's some hustle that I can that can make happen to cover this cost. And it is totally not the way it used to be. And so you're absolutely right. There is some less is liberation, and there is some truth to that. You know, less in space, less in responsibility. The less is liberation for sure.
That's
Mm-hmm.
true.
For sure.
Yep. Okay, so tell us, and all of this information will be in the video description. Tell us how we can contact you, follow you, support you, do all of those things.
Mhm. Well, we have a website. I don't know if that you have that information, but it's
It'll be in the,
literally
yes.
okay, dropyourbucket.com, and that is Booker T again, because that was one of his famous speeches in Atlanta where he said, "Cast your bucket," but basically live in your means, within your means.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we have that site, and we're eventually we'll get other social medias. We're working on that right now too.
Hmm.
Okay.
We're old, do all that, but we're working on it.
Okay. All right. So I'll share your website. I will share the information about your workshop. I'll share contact information so that people who want to contact you before the workshop can do so. And all of
For sure.
that will again be in the video description as I always do.
Yeah,
All
both our
right.
cell
I'm sorry, go
are
ahead.
on the. I was gonna say both our cell numbers are on the flyer. If you can't get John, people usually call me, and I answer every call. He
All
might
right.
not.
All
I
right.
will.
All right. Sounds good. I thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for
It's
having
it's
us.
been a absolutely. It's been a while since we've had a chance to be in conversation. So I appreciate seeing your faces, and now I know I got to come to Alabama and visit you, and all of
Yes.
those good things. Um,
See,
You gotta be there.
yeah, you got to come.
yep, I have got to come. I think when I came to visit you all, was your son in junior? He was still in middle school when I came, and now he's graduating college. Was he in middle
Yeah,
school? I think so.
put
Yeah,
us in contact with someone that was working there
at UG,
at Georgia
Georgia
My
Tech.
Tech.
my friend Sabrina, absolutely.
Yeah, so, Sabrina. Okay, I remember. Yeah, she's over the multicultural division there. She knows John well.
Yeah,
she kicks,
she
but
shared with me.
tells them like it is.
Yep. Yeah, that's Sabrina. She gonna tell you like it
Yeah,
is for sure. Absolutely.
definitely.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I thank you all. I'm going to do my closeout. John and Molette, don't hang up yet. But I thank everyone in the audience. Thank you all for being engaged and asking the questions and sharing in this conversation. I appreciate you all so much for showing up on Sundays to support these conversations. This is something that helps me be able to be in community with you all, and I appreciate y'all for showing up and just being here and being encouraging and being engaged. So thank you so much. So again, this has been the part of the segment of Creating Home, a Tiny House series. This is conversations on intimate spaces. Next week we will be in the segment "What's Your Question?" where I will be answering a frequently asked tiny house question, and then answering questions from people in the chat. So I thank you all for joining. One of the questions, and before I close out, hey Vaughn, the question for you and John: do you all offer your floor plans for purchase?
Um, I do have a couple of floor plans that we can have available. That's not a
Okay,
problem.
okay, all right. Uh-oh, I did that wrong. Okay. All right. So I'll whatever information they give me, I'll share it in the video
Yeah.
description. Thanks for that question. I didn't want to close out. Again, this is if this video is helpful to you, I ask that you like it, you share it, you tell your friends about it. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and then turn on the notification so that you'll know when content is available. And I thank you all again for being here on each and every Sunday with me and in conversation. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Awesome.